The opening of the Odyssey serves as a masterclass in narrative tension and structural complexity, immediately plunging us into a world where the divine and the mortal are inextricably linked. In Book I, we do not find our protagonist Ulysses on a grand battlefield, but rather absent, languishing on the island of Ogygia under the blandishments of the goddess Calypso. The narrative pulse begins in the halls of Olympus, where Minerva pleads for his release, while the great persecutor of Ulysses, Neptune, is conveniently away feasting with the Ethiopians. This divine maneuver allows Jove to authorize Ulysses' return, setting the wheels of the epic in motion. Meanwhile, in Ithaca, we are introduced to Telemachus, a young man brooding moodily amidst a swarm of insolent suitors who are eating up his house in a bid for his mother Penelope's hand. Minerva descends in the disguise of Mentes, a family friend, to put heart into the prince, urging him to call an assembly and then travel to Pylos and Sparta to seek news of his father.
As the scene shifts to Book II, the action intensifies through the first public assembly held in Ithaca since Ulysses' departure 20 years prior. Telemachus, endowed by Minerva with a divine comeliness, confronts the suitors and the silent townspeople, passionately denouncing the recklessness and ruin of his estate. Here we meet the primary antagonists, the arrogant Antinous and the manipulative Eurymachus. Antinous reveals the famous trick of the shroud, where Penelope delayed the suitors for 3 years by weaving a burial cloth for old Laertes by day and unpicking it by night. Despite an omen of 2 fighting eagles sent by Jove, interpreted by the prophet Halitherses as a sign of Ulysses' imminent and bloody return, the suitors remain unswayed, mocked the prophecy, and refused to leave. Book II concludes with Telemachus secretly preparing a ship and crew with the aid of Minerva, now disguised as the loyal friend Mentor, and setting sail into the watches of the night.
The introduction of Telemachus is vital to the epic's architecture, as he represents the transition from a passive victim of circumstances to an active agent of his own destiny, a subplot often referred to by scholars as the telemachy. His growth provides a moral foil to the suitors, whose lack of sense or virtue marks them for the doom that will shortly fall. Minerva's role as mentor is equally significant, as she embodies the concept of divine guidance that is earned through human effort rather than merely granted. The name mentor has itself passed into our modern lexicon as a common noun for a trusted advisor, a direct testament to the cultural longevity of these early books. In the broader context of literature, these chapters are important because they establish the in media res, in the middle of things, structure that would become a standard for epic poetry. By starting 10 years after the fall of Troy and keeping Ulysses offstage, Homer builds an immense psychological weight around the hero's identity. We see Ulysses through the eyes of those he left behind, a man of such resource to his allies and a horrid obstacle to his enemies. This absence makes his eventual return more impactful. Interestingly, the character of the bard Phemius, who is compelled perforce to sing for the suitors, offers a metatextual reflection on the poet's own role and the power of song to break a sorrowful heart.
Intertextually, the shadow of the house of Atreus looms over these books. Jove's opening speech about Aegisthus, who was killed by Orestes for murdering Agamemnon, serves as a dark parallel to the situation in Ithaca. This Orestes paradigm is explicitly cited by Minerva to inspire Telemachus, suggesting that he must show his mettle, as Orestes did to make himself a name in story. This theme of a son's duty to avenge his father or preserve his legacy is a recurring motif that echoes through literature, perhaps most famously in Shakespeare's Hamlet, where the ghost of a father similarly spurs a son into action against usurpers.
A notable piece of trivia regarding Sam Butler's life and his work on this text is his insistence that the topography of Ithaca described in these opening books, specifically the rugged nature of the island and its relationship to the surrounding group, was based on the author's intimate knowledge of the Sicilian coastline.
Butler argued that the author was a woman living in Trapani, Sicily, who wrote herself into the story as the Princess Nausicaa. In this specific translation, Butler's choice to use Roman names like Ulysses, Minerva, and Jova, rather than the Greek Odysseus, Athena, and Zeus reflects a long-standing English tradition that viewed Greek epics through the lens of Latin translations.
Furthermore, the domestic details in Book 2, such as the description of Euryclea tidily folding Telemachus's shirt and hanging it over a peg, highlight a hallmark of the Odyssey, its fascination with the prosaic elements of life alongside the heroic. This focus on the domestic sphere, from the fragrant olive oil in the storeroom to the maiden on either side of Penelope, is what distinguishes the Odyssey from the purely martial focus of the Iliad. It creates a lived-in world where the stakes of Ulysses' return are not just a crown, but the restoration of the smoke of his own chimneys. This early emphasis on home and hearth establishes the central theme of Nostos, homecoming, which continues to resonate in every story of a long journey toward a forgotten or stolen home.
Please, comment, like, and subscribe if you don't want to miss the next chapter.